August brought me a mix of wins, misses, a few surprises. Some of it you may have caught in videos I posted across the channels, but other parts never made it into a finished public video. In this recap, I'll cover what I played, what stuck with me, and some new reflections now that I've had some more time. My biggest surprise this month was Nine Kings. Nine Kings is this fun little roguelike city builder that has these deck building and tower defense elements. It wasn't really on my radar very much coming into the month. It got recommended to me and I gave it a go. The game is called Nine Kings, but currently there are only 8 of the 9 Kings, as it's still an early access game, which gave me a lot of freedom. I think there's something special about early access because you know that you're not getting a finished product. And so if you like what's going on in early access, the odds of the finished product being something that you like even more, I think is pretty strong, as you can kind of tell the direction a game is going when it's in early access. And I think it's really nice. And Nine Kings had a lot of good things going for it. Of the 8 kings currently available, the opening king was the King of Nothing. And I think he's still my favorite. He's got a card that gives him farms, and the farms card gives you more units, and more units just felt better. Some of the other kings revolve around some of their towers or special buildings, and they were a little more tricky to build into or to interact with and feel like I was winning. The biggest surprise favorite king for me in Nine Kings was the King of Nomads. This was the only king where you deliberately kept a couple of empty tiles. The King of Nomads has a special card called Migration, and this let us move one of our already played and placed down units or structures to an empty space, and it would buff everything around it or itself. And it was a cool mechanic that had me thinking differently about how we journeyed through Nine Kings. August had me putting a few more hours into Mechabellum. Mechabellum is a tactical war game. You command a mechanized army. It's a bit of an auto battler, but I find it kind of peaceful. I'm sure other people really try and climb the leaderboards and engage with absolutely building just the perfect robot killing army. But for myself, I just like building what I think is fun and letting the next fight. I've actually put a lot of hours in the Mechabellum, and I don't think I'm necessarily getting any better at the game, but I'm not really trying to. I'm just there to kind of relax. It's kind of zen. You know, I place my guys, take my time, and I wait. I take a sip of my drink, and time passes, and I relax, and they go fight, and I do it again. It's very zen for me. August also saw a return to Helldivers 2. This was a surprise as well, as it was not on the docket for this month. But on Steam, I saw a couple of friends were in game, and I said, you know what? They've not played this game before. It just got, I think, maybe a release onto some new consoles or new systems, and maybe they're having fun with it. So I just shot them a message and said, hey, we haven't talked in 12 months. That's a year. I see you're diving. You want to dive together? And they were like, yes. It was very fun. A nice little change of pace. A good little surprise. And I think over time, Helldivers 2 has added in some good stuff and added in some stuff I don't like as much as their other stuff. And I think that's probably the natural progression of things. There's a lot more ways you can pay a fun tax in Helldivers. I think there's a lot of pay-to-play hooks where they released a number of optimal, really the best in slot items, weapons, tactics behind a paywall, like a $20 US paywall where you can pay 10, but you've got to buy their premium currency. And if you buy their premium currency and you buy 10, you can get like 1.5 of these bad boys. But if you pay 20, you can get 2 full ones. And then you're like, oh my goodness, why would I just get 1.5? You can't buy a half. So then you always have some weird leftover currency. It's one of those little gameplay toll booths almost, right? Where you don't really have to keep paying to keep playing, but eventually you're going to run out of the base game content, because that is the thinnest number of, if you added up all of the weapons, vehicles, tools, etc., that you can engage with from the free version, right? You pay for the game, you pay a standard price for the game. You have access to a number of tools. But if you want any of the new stuff or the fun stuff, and there's quite a lot of that going on, you're going to have to keep paying. And it's pretty pricey if you're all in, but it's tough to jump back into a fun new game and then be like, I still have all my old tools, but everyone else has fancy stuff that looks like a lot more fun. In fact, a lot of them are a lot more. That continuous spending loop, feels a little bit like psychological manipulation. Everyone has the shiny new stuff and you just don't. And that's tough. As much as I like Helldivers and think it's a fun game, I'm always very hesitant, if not against, recommending it for that reason. I am uncomfortable with the, segmented sales system, right? Where you buy the game and you have the game, but you don't have all the fun stuff. You know, it's not necessarily predatory. That makes it sound malicious, right? But it's definitely deliberate and intentional. And it's definitely a design choice that encourages the developers to continue to add fun stuff behind paywalls. And the fun tax always stings and does not bring me joy. This month of August, I jumped back into Final Fantasy 16. Famously, if you're following me on X, formerly Twitter, who knows what will be named next, I made a tweet, a jeet, I don't know what we're calling it these days. I posted and I said, hey, I think this year I'm going to play through Final Fantasy 1 all the way to the end in numerical order. So Final Fantasy 1, Final Fantasy 2. That did not happen. I finished 1 and I was so happy with things. I was afraid. I was like, if I start 2 right now and it's not even better or as good as 1, what's going to happen? Will I even make it to 3? So I just kind of walked away from it. And then I jumped back in at Final Fantasy 16, which is great. This was actually the third time now I've picked it back up to record, and I've had some kind of recording error where software is updated or changed or a cable has been bumped. There's been some kind of curse on trying to get through that game where I've made good progress, and I've discovered that the audio is completely corrupted. My editing software can no longer read the file, and I've now started to just record in 15-minute bursts and then look back and be like, is it working? Is it good? So I picked it up again this month on a whim, and I said, all right, this is the month things will go well. And the very first segment of recording was completely kerfuffled, and I'm still trying to figure out how to backtrack to get the mental stamina, to get the mental fortitude to try again, because I think it's a really fun adventure, and I'm dying to play more Final Fantasy in all the best ways. One of my all-time favorite games is Age of Wonders 4, and this August it got its big update. One of their, as of the current moment, one of their last big planned updates. I'm very much against achievement hunting. I don't think games are generally designed in a way that achievement hunting maximizes fun, and I think as a player that is almost always the best thing for you to do. Do what's the most fun for you. So if you think achievement hunting is fun, go for it. But oftentimes I feel like achievements are designed in a way that are not the most fun. They're designed to just take away the most amount of time from me, so I'm forced to spend more time in a game. And a lot of times a game I've really enjoyed, hunting down the achievements has soured it for me. So I've avoided it quite easily over the years. Age of Wonders 4 is actually one of the only games I had all the achievements for, and they keep releasing updates. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. My favorite game's getting a new update. So August was a lot of fun. It's obviously not my only favorite game or necessarily my most favorite game because I probably like all the games a little too much. But point is, they had a really great update. I jumped back in, and I am, I think, 2 achievements short of having all of them again, which is not necessarily the goal, as I just enjoy journeying through Age of Wonders 4. But it's definitely something that I was looking at going, I could do another round, and usually I stumble into them, as most of the achievements in Age of Wonders 4 are, if you play the game, you will get them. Similar to something like Subnautica, the first Subnautica. If you finish the game, if you finish a run, I think you default had all the achievements, which is cool. Age of Wonders 4 has a few extra side ones like, hey, make sure you win with this specific army or this specific leader, but that's not a big deal. This August had me in Warhammer 40k Space Marines 2. If you follow closely, you'll see I've made over the years, every once in a while I'll make a post about Warhammer. Somewhere, someplace, sometime I'll bring it up. It's not my most favorite thing in the world, but I think it's a lot of fun. It's one of those places where I hope I never live because it just seems like a bad place to exist. And that's part of the setting that it is. It is the godfather of Grimdark. And Warhammer 40k Space Marines 2 was a great little romp. I think that's the right word. I think we're going to use the word romp in this scenario. You know, romp by definition is one of those rough and energetic activities, right? And it definitely was energetic and kind of rough. I don't mean that like in a glitchy or a bad way, but I'm probably one of the only people that liked it so much I wanted it to be shorter, where I felt like some of the things we were doing were just a little too drawn out, and I would have had more fun if it was a little tighter. Because the length of things ruined some of the immersion, because I started to realize I've killed the same enemy 10 times in the last hour. And if this was a 30-minute segment, I could have killed those same 10 enemies in 30 minutes or 5 of them instead of repeating them 10 times. And it would have just felt a little cleaner. I think a lot of the game is designed around setting up these cinematic moments. It's not necessarily designed around you, the player, engaging with the world as much as the world engaging with you, where they want you to feel the wonder and the awe and the power that could be an experience you'd have journeying through Warhammer as a Space Marine. And I think they nailed a lot of that. but it made me feel like some of the nitty gritty, some of the little details made me go, man, this should have been just a little shorter. I think something a little more brief would have been nice, because I wanted to end the campaign wanting more. And I ended the campaign like, that was nice. Cool. That was cool. Great. That was great. I only had good things to say, but I didn't end the campaign wanting more. I ended the campaign feeling a little too satisfied. And I felt like if it was a little shorter, a little tighter, I think I would have ended it and been like, what's next? What do you offer me? Like, what can you do? I know there's more stuff to do post-campaign, but I kind of ended the campaign almost a little too satisfied, and I think a shorter length would have solved a lot of those issues. This month of August also had me diving into Wuchange Fallen Feathers. The facts are, I am not the best Souls player in the world. Genuinely not. I'm actually probably one of the most average Souls players in the world. You better believe if there's a skill check boss, it will check me. You better believe if there's a fight I can cheese, I will cheese it. Famously, I was getting my butt kicked in Sekiro, and I stumbled into the monkey axe, and I monkey axed my way through just about everything I could happily, so happily. Got my hands on the big fancy slicey blade, the mortal blade or whatever it's called these days, and I just absolutely took out all mortals that I could. In Elden Ring, I think I ran a magic build the first run, and then I did some other, whatever the most OP thing I could find was in the next run or whatever. You know, I am absolutely happy to run whatever the nastiest build I could. I think in Dark Souls 3, I ended up with a sword that was super sharp and then an axe that was super crazy. Things worked out for me, but darn, I struggle with these Souls games. I struggle with these action adventure games that are designed in a way to imitate Souls games, but not necessarily replicate. For example, they'll have, you know, a boss fight that's built around endurance and dodge and timing and deflection, and it's cinematic and it's engaging and it wants you to play with it. And in Sekiro, it was done so well, it felt like a dance. Where in Sekiro, I didn't even look at health bars. I didn't look at the parry bar. I was just locked in to the experience of the fight, and I could feel my deflection coming, their deflection coming, and there's something magical about it that it felt like dancing with someone who's just the right dance partner. If you've had that experience, you'll know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you dance with someone that has two left feet and you're like, oh gosh, you know, this is not the most fun. And other times you dance with someone that they move, you move, they move, you move, and everyone's happy, and it's just a fun time. Sekiro felt like that, and a lot of the times when I see a Souls game try and imitate, or an action adventure game try and imitate some of the Souls game mechanics, I feel like they learn all the wrong lessons and apply it halfway decent. So Wuchange definitely has a skill check boss, but I would consider, as a current state of the game, Commander Hong Lan as the skill check boss, and she's like 4, 5, or 6 bosses in. She's like kind of far into the game. I think there's currently like 20 or 24 bosses. And so her being, you know, 20, 25% of the way through the game is pretty significant to come up against a wall. And I've definitely bounced off a few times. We've gotten a tooltip and it's been like, hey, some enemies like giant deadly trees are weak to fire, wink. And then you turn the corner and there's a tree that's like, hey, you want to fight? And you're like, well, I guess I'll use fire. And like they did the same thing with Hong Lan. They're like, hey, just so you know, she's weak to a parry. I mean, parry's a mechanic you should use. I mean, you can beat the fight without a parry, but you should totally parry this boss. But the parry mechanic is locked behind a specific weapon. And if you use that weapon, you still don't have the parry. You have to use your skill points to unlock the parry skill, which is not an immediately obvious number of things to do or events. There's little decisions like that make me go, okay, I know you want me to learn about parry because it's actually useful for this boss and a few down the road, but you locked it behind a weapon I might not be using. And even when you unlock the weapon, you might not have spent the skill points, know you need to spend the skill points, or even see the skill point to spend to get the parry mechanic. There's all kinds of little decisions like that in Wuchange Fallen Feathers that kind of make me go, ah. I said this in the live stream. I said, hey, right now where I'm at, I'm probably about a little past the halfway point. And if you're a huge fan of the genre and your backlog is cleared, definitely pick this up. You know, if you love the action adventure games or the Souls games or Souls Light or Souls Born or whatever they're calling it these days, because they keep adding names of the genre and I can't keep up because reasons, which I'm sure is relatable for someone. The point is, if you're a huge fan of the genre, and your backlog is clear, go for it. It's a great, great time. If you're not the biggest fan of the genre, I think there's other games that do it better or have a superior way that they do things in a meaningful way. For example, a very small example is Wuchange. Black Myth Wuchange has a mechanic that lets you teleport back to a fast travel point. no matter where you are, you can just teleport back to a fast travel point. It's super, quality of life and nice. And Wuchange, on the other hand, is like, hey, you want to get back there? Run. Oh, okay. I spent some time in Dark Souls enough to know they're not my favorite. They have a habit of having the boss not be super close to where your starting point is, which means if you don't beat the boss, you'll have to run back to the boss to fight them again. And that run back isn't the most fun. And Wuchange forgot that you don't have to do that. In Elden Ring, I think FromSoft did a great job of adding in a fast, a starting point for a boss fight very close to the boss. It just made the boss fights so much more fun because I could focus on fighting the boss and learning the boss and not focusing on remembering which guy is going to try and poke me with a spear around what corner, because that's just not my kind of party. Point is, Wuchange has a couple of fights that have a meaningful run back to get to that for me detracts from the experience. And I think other games in the genre do what Wuchange Fallen Feathers does better than Wuchange Fallen Feathers. So I don't think it's the one I'd recommend you first pick up, but it's not a bad game. I don't think that's the takeaway here. I'm going to finish the game and have more thoughts and probably put up a review on the reviews channel. And eventually I'll probably finish editing through the full experience on my playthrough channel, Vadd. I'm Vadd. If you like this video, click like. YouTube channel members and the Patreon to support what I do. I will see you in the next one.